Okay, yeah. Right, I'm going to open up this newer, or this better looking machine, which is the VIC-20 with the nice aesthetics, but with the horrible functioning. So let's open up these screws. There's three. Oh yeah, and this is just going to be a lengthy video with hardly any editing, and I'm just going to splice together the footage. I'm using two cameras. I'm using my trusty my trusty video cam with bad sound, and I'm using my wife's little Sony Lens G that actually works pretty well. Yes, it's still recording, so and I believe I should be able to open up the unit like so. Oh wow, this looks very different from a Commodore 64. These seem to be wired in, and this little piece of shielding should come out. Oh, that's a cool thing. The chips are actually socketed. Not sure if you are able to tell, but yeah, that's great. And I need actually to take some pictures. Yeah, white wire goes to the front, so I'm gonna take off the keyboard cable and have it sit over here. So let's see if everything is actually socketed. Every chip on this unit is actually socketed. So that's actually very nice. I should use another camera actually to be able to. Okay. On. And I'm going to record some stuff. So, if you look at the motherboard, you can see that all chips are actually socketed. So they should be fairly easy to replace. And look at this RF shielding. That is amazing. But yeah. If I were to replace one of the chips, it's just a matter of taking one of them out and replacing them with another one. So a lot of the times these 6522 ICs may be malfunctioning, or this one, or that one. But yeah, I'm just gonna see what happens if I open up the other machine, because I may actually end up just doing a motherboard swap for now. And yeah, it's just amazing to see. I mean, this is the first time I actually opened up a VIC-20, and it's very similar to a Commodore 64 actually, but I'm using various cameras. Right. The power LED is, I'm just gonna move it over to the side and just do a comparison. Okay, so let's open up the yellow one. So this is some surgery. And basically the screws that are used are the same. So even though there's several thousands, 10,000s of production models in between. Basically the unit has the same case. So let me see what happens if I open this up. Oh, the shielding is more elaborate. Oh, and this motherboard is just tiny compared. Oh, that's cool. Stop messaging. I just want to record stuff, but yeah, I'm just gonna video this because this is just a completely different motherboard. Very small. Look at this. This is just a very small motherboard. Everything is just very tiny shielding. So, and the chips, some of them are socketed, but only this one, I guess. The rest isn't. So, yeah, it's a bit harder to splice them together. You can actually see the power going to the user port there. Yeah, and the LED thing with the red wire going off to the. Let me put them together. And show you the similarity. So this is a much larger board, but the case actually supports mounting the larger motherboard. But this actually is a much smaller motherboard, so that's a completely different revision. This actually. So I think I will be able to transfer this into that machine, but yeah, and the wire, the red wire here is on the left pin, and here it's on the rightmost side pin. So I may have to snap some pictures and to see how it hooks up, but yeah, this shield is actually belongs to the motherboard. So it may actually be very easy to replace, and of course the keyboard cable is pretty similar. So yeah, it's just a matter of taking off this, and yeah, hooking it up. So it's going to involve some minor surgery. Actually, if I compare the two motherboards, I actually prefer this one. Not sure why, but yeah, the RAM chips, for example, I like the layout. Of course, they miniaturized quite a few components. There's a lot less components on this motherboard, and it's quite reminiscent of what you see with the Commodore 64 in its later versions. So this is an old revision motherboard, and as you can see, a lot of components are on there, and quite a few components are actually recognizable as being similar, but a lot of them are actually quite different. But yeah, doing a motherboard transplant is actually quite easy to do, I guess. So yeah, let's opt for the easy solution and do the motherboard transplant. And of course, I have to transplant the paper metal shielding as well. Just do a complete transplant. And actually, what will happen is actually that I want to check out if cleaning up these chips and reseating them in the sockets actually will help. Because sometimes that's just the case, you know, with these sockets that some connection is lost, and perhaps just, you know, cleaning it up and taking in and out these chips will actually work. But yeah, for now I'll probably end up doing a motherboard transplant, because that's the easiest way to get this system up and running. Okay. Take some photographs. So this is actually how the wires so that is wired differently, and that's basically it. And I may actually write it down. Okay, so the small motherboard wires CN1 and the red wire and the black wire, and the big motherboard it's CN3, and you have 3 prongs, and so this is the red one and the black one. Right. Okay, so it will be easy to just take this off, I hope. Yep, so the case is completely separate. And this one too. So that is completely separate. And it's just a matter of removing the motherboard. And there's supposed to be, I think, 4 screws. The rest is just to hold the faceplate in place. So I'm just gonna take out those screws, the motherboard screws. This is very basic, basic servicing, as it has nothing to do with actually, removing any of the electrical components. Just doing a motherboard transplant. But the thing is, the old motherboard actually seems to be a lot more serviceable. Okay. So both cameras are actually recording. Around the connectors, there's actually quite a few of these screws holding down the motherboard, which is a good thing, because it gives it some strength. Okay, so I think the motherboard should just lift out. Yeah, it does. It will just lift out. And as you can see, this is what the motherboard looks like, and it's a VIC-20 assemble number 250403, 1982, Commodore. So revision D motherboard, and it looks in very good nick. All the traces seem to be okay. So I'm just going to put it over there, and the flap, the flap that goes with it. So yeah. And now I'm going to remove the other motherboard, and it has some more screws. And these screws are actually they're actually loose. So I guess this unit must have been serviced before. It's really funny how they used a carton box with some metallic spray paint as shielding. Oh wow, there's actually 2 pot meters not sure what they are about. But yeah, I mean, the design of this is very similar to the Commodore 64. There's one over here. Or is it? Or is that just the? Yeah, it's just a faceplate. Okay. So it should just lift off, I guess. Wow. And this is a bit loose, but this is, oh, it doesn't have any, oh, it says fabrication number 324002, revision D. So it's also revision D. And a little thing that comes with it. So this is the case that I want to use for the smaller motherboard. There's hardly any dust in it whatsoever, so yeah, I'm just gonna take the small electrical shielding thing, and it should just line up, or doesn't it? Let me see if it actually will work. Hold on. I'm doing it the other way around, aren't I? It should, yeah, this is the way it's supposed to line up. So everything lines up, and the motherboard will just sit snugly in place, and it has less screws to, oh my. Okay, so there's less holes to hold it in place. So I guess there's a difference between the cases. So it seems a case transplant isn't as straightforward as I'd hoped it would be. Yep, there's more holes in this one, so it will fit a smaller motherboard. It's less high. So yeah, that's a bummer. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the same. I'll make a small video of it. Okay, so as you can see, this is the more damaged unit, and it has more poles for mounting a motherboard. This one has fewer poles, so a simple motherboard transplant is actually not as easy as you'd like. Right, which is a bit of a shame, really. Let me see if there's no way at all to fit it properly using fewer. Well, I mean, it is mounted at some points, but it's not as sturdy as you want it to be. That's over there, and I suppose I could use fewer. I could use fewer poles. Yeah, I mean, the motherboard doesn't. I mean, if I'm just very careful with it, I'm just gonna try. Because the rest, everything lines up. And it's supported alright, so the shielding goes back in place like so. Yeah. Okay. So now I will have to make sure that the proper let me see, like so. It's mounted like this. So I have to hook up the proper connectors. And now I have to look at my little drawing. So this is the CN1. So the red goes to the most right one. And the black goes to the middle one. Like so. It is not as electronically sound as you would like it to be, but oh well. Okay. And now, of course, for connecting up the keyboard connector, it's fairly easy. There's only one way to hook it up. Like so. Oh, of course, it hooks in like so. And everything sits flush. So basically this houses the new motherboard properly. And let's put back the 3 screws. And those. And you have to turn them very, very slightly because you don't want to mess up the plastics, because these plastics are old and could be a bit brittle. So just screw them tight ever so slightly. Ah, okay, so it appears to have disconnected. Well. Okay, so yeah. So it has a little less rigidity as you would want it to have, but if it sits like that, it's okay. So yeah. So this is a cosmetically nicer looking unit. Now, of course, there could be other things going wrong with it, but yeah, let me see if I can. Okay, so it's back recording again. Let's hope it doesn't lose connection. So this basically houses the newer, smaller motherboard, and everything aligns properly. So yeah. So I hope this unit will function. If there's a malfunction in the keyboard, the unit will actually have the same issue as the other one. And now for replacing the bigger let me see, oops, like so, oh, like so. And yeah, there's some holes that don't line up, but you know, it's okay. Let's see if I can sit down the motherboard like so. Yeah, and most holes on the bigger case actually do line up. It's not a perfect fit, I think, but yeah, it'll work. It'll work. So let's put some of the screws back together. Let's use a smaller Phillips screwdriver. Let's sit down. And use those small screws. So these motherboards, they have slightly different hole alignments for the case. which is amazing because one would think that, you know, just a single type of plastic case was used, but for some reason they opted to to use different kind of plastic molds for the case. So, but it works. It works. Just screw them in very like so. I guess most of the now what I can do is actually press down on those chips without actually inserting or removing them, because that actually may improve some of the connections. Like so. Now back. So this is the one with the bent pins. So the other one, the CN3, has red and black, like so. So I have to hook it up like this. So now the incredibly, that shielding, very thorough shielding. So, and now hook back up the keyboard. It only goes on in one manner. It's like some weird IDE cable. Like so, and then hook up the little clips over there and see that nothing is caught. And everything fits snugly together. And use the 3 holes to screw the case together. So I've got a couple of spare screws over here. Not sure if you can see, but yeah, those are from the holes that are not used by the smaller motherboard. And there's actually a few less screws I could use on the big motherboard. So let me see. Oh, that one. And of course, I'm very curious whether or not this transplant actually fixed both machines. So the newer machine looks older and has a new, well, both have been transplanted. And this machine looks nicer. And actually there's some differences between the cases, I think, because there's a small slight, I'm not sure if you'll able to tell, but there's actually a small size difference in height. As you can see, this is a lower case, this is a higher case, so they did do some changes to the mold. And of course I'm going to hook up both systems and see if they play. So, older motherboard in newer case, newer motherboard in older case, and the new motherboard is smaller, so yeah. And I'm going to use this joystick. This is actually a SUSE arcade stick, and it was produced in Rotterdam, and I believe this actually was meant to be used on the Commodore 64, hence the brown and the beige. It has discolored quite a bit, but yeah, it's a very nice joystick, and it has all the little feet still there. it has a real arcade quality micro switches and of course a fire button. So this is actually very useful for playing Commodore and Atari games. Must go arcade stick, and actually Luke Morris recently got this version with the black and the red button, which is much more common. This actually was introduced for use with the Commodore, just to keep up with the how do you say that, the color scheme that the Commodore and the VIC-20 were using. So yeah, now I have to move around some things and yeah, hook up the machine and see if they will actually play. And have actually survived the motherboard transplant that I just did. So okay, the old machine with the new, yeah, what is it? This is actually the machine that has the different motherboard, of the old motherboard that was malfunctioning. So I'm very curious whether or not this will actually work. Yeah, the unit has a bit of a temperamental power button. Well, at least the LED comes on. And let's see if the screen comes alive. Where is the screen? Ah, there it is. Like so. So the keyboard works, but now I'm very curious whether or not the air battle card actually works. So I'm just going to insert that, make sure the machine is turned off, and turn it back on. Color is right and A is fire, and press F1. So yeah, as you can see, the spaceship still moves to the right, so to the left. So yeah, basically this motherboard still has the same fault. So for now, this is going to be my spare machine, which is fine. And now the cosmetically enhanced system, and it uses a different power brick. It uses a Commodore 64 style power brick, and with a much more elaborate DIN plug instead of just the two like so. And I'm just gonna switch it on. Yep, but there's some more interference, which is a shame because that isn't supposed to happen. It could be this wonky monitor though, but yeah, okay. Let's turn that off and introduce the Star Battle. So the functioning machine has a worse video out, or just this I'm using an external converter thingy. As you can see, the power light is turned on. So so it's L and what is it? And A for fire. Yeah, as you can see, this machine functions. But as this machine actually houses, oh, I should do the Shatner like so. And I'll introduce the joystick to the single joystick port and turn it back on. And see if I can play the game, which is a Galaga clone, I guess, with the joystick. that sound alone. But it's cool as this new new machine actually works. Oh wow! As you can see, there's actually the protective layer of the cartridge. There's still this foil thing on top of the card, so the little metal faceplate underneath is actually well protected. Now, this is actually a must-have for any VIC-20 user, and this is actually the Mega Card, the Denial Mega Card, and it basically, and this is serial number 139. It's a homebrew card with a little reset button, but what it basically is this houses a lot of the VIC-20 software. It also houses a memory expansion, so it expands the memory to I believe 40K or something, and it contains a lot of the original VIC-20 games. So let me shove it in the cartridge port like so, turn on the machine, and as you can see there's some interference going on, but yeah, it should actually work. Let's get rid of that mouse cable and zoom into the screen a bit. So let's turn down the volume a bit because one can totally go insane. Okay, let's see if I can sit down and demo some of the the features. There's utilities. You move down, you go to utilities. So there's basic 4, cassette turbo, all sorts of disk utilities. Actually fourth start, and with an expansion of RAM. So basically you can actually program the VIC in Fort like this. I have very little experiences with programming in Fort. I think the interference actually is caused by the little View TV Pro LCD TV box thing I'm using. But for camera to monitor, this actually works quite well. So let me see, there's disk utilities, there's disk and tape games utilities, there's a lot of different, let me see, go back, cartridge games. So there's some classics on there, like Bandits. It's a very nice shoot 'em up. Oh, that's the thing. This is an NTSC only game, so you do get some issues because this uses a different refresh rate. A lot of the VIC-20 games used various ways of tricking the machine into that it's tricking the machine into thinking it had sprites, or create their own graphics modes. So yeah, they are pretty much build around a certain refresh rates, so cartridge games. So let's try another one. It actually states whether or not it's compatible with PAL machines. Centipede. So it says both PAL and NTSC, so that's okay. Arcade, paddles, favorite, so you can also use paddles in some of the games. And let's press start. Centipede. F1 for options. F1 for player start. So again, player start. So as you can see, yeah, you hear the clicky noises of this arcade stick. And I guess for NTSC, VIC-20 owners back in the day, this actually may be a bit slow compared to the NTSC games that they were used to. But this is actually quite a decent port of Centipede. And I must say that the Transplant actually was a success. Dick Dug, also both start. And mind you, this actually is a machine that has no sprites. So everything that you see is actually done in graphics modes that programmers invented themselves. Whoa. Is he going to escape? Yes, he's going to escape. So basically this cartridge is actually a must-have for for any VIC-20 user. And this game is just awesome. Oops. Yeah, I'm not sure if it comes across well, but I mean the scrolling is there. This actually doesn't look like a VIC-20 game at all. So, cosmetically, this unit actually is a lot better, and it functions well. So, it does pay to change around. So this is the original port. It does pay to transplant a motherboard. Oh, this is playing fast. Not sure if you'll be able to tell, but from the footage. But man, this plays well. So this is quite a long video, and I'm not sure. So yeah, this actually is a machine that should be played on a CRT, as the video out is rather susceptible to some interference, and all CRTs they have a hard time coping with the output. Let's see, Go Action perhaps. Is Pac-Man. And that's the last game I'm gonna show, and then it's bye-bye. So. Yeah, that's the one thing about that arcade stick, that it really clicks. Yeah, in the ideal situation, I may actually put the original motherboard back into the original case, as that of course makes the machine more, how do you say it, authentic. Yeah, I'm just gonna, that's another product jack, but I'm gonna reseat all these chips and see if that helps. And if it doesn't, I'm trying to identify the chip that may be at fault. And I'm not sure how to do that yet, but and then replace that chip. So, whoops. Let's see if I can. They just keep on hovering about. And for a machine without sprites, I mean, this looks a lot better than a lot of the other machines out there. I mean, so yeah, I think the jail bar effect that a lot of these old 8-bit machines have is just exaggerated here, because for some reason, yeah, this this video board just outputs a signal that the little View TV Pro box has a hard time digesting. But, yeah. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. Okay, let's see if I can position myself. Yeah, so yeah, one would call this VIC-20 Transplant a success. So basically this cosmetically not so good looking machine actually houses the old motherboard with the error. So looks cosmetically and function wise this actually belongs together much better than the newer machine, so the newer looking machine. So yeah, I'd call this a success for now, and I am going to check whether or not I am able to make the old motherboard, the bigger motherboard, work properly. And I'm very inclined to put it back into the better looking case and use the older motherboard as a functioning machine. But for now, this works well. So good looking machine. It functions. It probably outputs a very good quality picture on the CRT. So I'm happy. 2 thumbs up. And yeah, well, I mean, this is, you know, not an instructional video. I'm not like Mark fixes stuff. This is just me, you know, showing off how I do stuff. And yeah, I'm just happy that I didn't fry any of the systems, and they still work, and they work predictably. So yeah, Mark's signing off, and I'll be back with another video soon. And the other video is going to be, my other hardware project is probably has to do with the VIC-20, or it has to do with the Spectra video machine that I recently got. So yeah, I'll be back with another video soon.